Hi everyone, welcome to Lisa's Stamp Studio. My name is Lisa Curcio. My card today uses the A Good Day stamp set. Super cute, tiny images meant to fit in our circle and scallop circle punches. I'm going to give you a tip about the Stampin' Blends that will revolutionize the new color palette that Stampin' Up! Is offering. I'll teach you how to make custom palettes to coordinate with those colors. If you're here from YouTube, you'll find the link to my blog down in the description of this video below. It'll navigate you there, which will make it easy for you to see the pictures and the cutting dimensions for today's project. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started. Here's a close-up of the card we're going to be creating today. I've been making a lot of these smaller cards. This one happens to be 4 by 8. I'm going to start with a piece of Whisper White cardstock and I'm going to fold it in half. The rest of the cutting dimensions for this card will be over on my blog. The link is down in the description bar below if you're here from YouTube. We're going to set this aside. We're not going to do too much with that. I'm going to start by embossing this piece of Whisper White cardstock as a layer for that 4 by 8 card. I've got the layered leaves embossing folder to emboss this panel. I'm going to go ahead and lay that inside. And I'm going to close that. Because of the depth of this folder, this is one of our dynamic textured impression folders. You're not going to need a clear cutting mat on the bottom of your regular Big Shot platform. So I'm just going to lay this on here, and then I'll put a clear mat over the top, and then we're going to crank that through. That's going to give us that really beautiful deep impression for the layer of that card. I cut a piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock just to add an extra layer here to give it some color. So I'm going to add a little bit of snail adhesive around the corners of my card, and I'll go ahead and mount that, leaving a small margin of color all the way around. I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to bring in a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I'm going to be using the image that says "Thank you so much." This is from the stamp set called A Good Day, a brand new Stampin' Up! Catalog for 2018. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you would like a complimentary copy, I would be happy to send you one. Just leave me a comment below. I'm bringing in my grid paper to protect my work surface since we're going to be using the Stampin' Blends. And since we are, I'm going to be using the Memento ink to stamp that image. This is a water-based ink, which will mean that the alcohol-based marker will not bleed. Now, as you know, the Mossy Meadow is one of the colors that was brought back. It was a previous in color. And of course, if you have the marker, you can go ahead and use it. But I want to show you a trick on how to combine your Stampin' Blends so that you can closely relate those colors to some of the new colors in the palette that Stampin' Up! Has this year. I'm going to be using the bronze Stampin' Blends marker. Because the areas of my leaf are very small, I'm going to use the fine point or the chiseled end of my Stampin' Blends. You're going to see too here that I have a piece of washi tape, and I put that on all my Stampin' Blends on the brush end. That keeps me from having to read them and identify which tip is which. This just makes it just quick for me to realize which one is the chiseled end from the brush end at a quick glance. Remember that you're going to want to protect your work surface when you're using the Stampin' Blends because it will penetrate the paper, and this is thick Whisper White cardstock. I find that the image actually holds up better on the thick paper than on the regular Whisper White. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color in just a few leaves here so that you can get an idea, using that bronze first. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that chiseled end again, but this time I'm using the dark Old Olive ink. And I'm going to go right over that. And you're going to see that as the alcohol begins to dissipate, that this shade is actually going to turn almost identical to the Mossy Meadow cardstock. Consider adding several colors of your Stampin' Blends to formulate a new tone to match some of these new color palettes. It's just a quick tip for you. I'm going to go ahead and color the rest of this in. I don't know if you noticed it or not, but I'm a little bit outside the line right here, and this is where the color lifter is going to come in handy. So I'm going to turn this to make it easier for my hand, and I'm going to use that chiseled end once again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this clear marker just outside the image, and because of the alcohol, it's actually going to travel inside the image. It's going to penetrate it. If I had put this too close, it's actually going to lighten that shade, which is not what I want to do. But I love this because not only does it lift color to great shading, but it's a great way to fix a mistake. I'm pulling out the 1 1/4 inch circle punch, and I'm going to go ahead and punch that image out. You're going to see that it's a perfect fit in here. I also have the 1 3/8 inch circle punch, and I'm going to punch out another circle. This will make those layer really well. You can see why Whisper White in the thick format is really great for Stampin' Blends, because a good colored image will have some seepage to the back side. I'm going to go ahead and add some snail adhesive to that circle, and then I'll layer these one on top of the other just to give them a little bit of a border. On that scrap piece that we just punched from, I want to stamp some leaves. So I've got my brand new Stampin' Classic pad, the Mossy Meadow, and this is the new style. So you're going to open it very much like a compact, and then it's going to slide closed. I have a quick tip video about how to condition the plastic track on these brand new ink pads to make it easier for you to open and close them until that plastic gets broken in. You'll find that link over on my blog. I'm actually going to ink up the leaves from the Painted Harvest stamp set. Now, I don't know how many of you may have this. This has been around now for about a year. Absolutely love the stamp set. Haven't pulled it out for a while, but I found out that these images work really well with the leaves in the stamp set. So I'm going to go ahead and ink those up. I'm going to stamp that down here at the bottom. That image has a coordinating leaf punch, so I'm going to go ahead and flip that over. I'm going to line that up. Now here's a tip for you about using your punches. Once you have it lined up where you want it, if you squeeze lightly down here on the mechanism before you actually punch, you're going to see that it actually locks it in place. That will ensure that you have your image lined up before you go ahead and punch it out. Now to close this ink pad, you're going to come from the back end and give it a little bit of a push. That's going to give you a little bit of extra edge to grab here. And then all you're going to do is flip it down and close it like a compact. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some linen thread around this card base. So I've pulled off about 18 inches here, and I'm going to start by wrapping this around the base of that layer. I'm going to come around here, and I want them to end in the middle. So I'm just going to shimmy these down, and then I'm going to work these layers so that they're fairly even. And then I'm going to tie it in the center. I'm not really worried about being perfectly aligned on each side just yet because it's going to be hidden. I'm going to put my finger there and I'm going to make a knot. This linen thread is very thin, so it's easy to manipulate. And then what I'll do is I'll kind of move these up for where I want them on placement. And the other great thing is you're able to separate them a little bit for some interest if you'd like. I'm grabbing my paper snips, and then I'm going to give these a quick trim. My next step is going to be to take that image. I'm going to flip that over, and I've got my dimensionals here. I'm going to grab a few of those. I'm going to place those on the back. I'm going to also make sure that I've got one in the center because I want to add a little bit more linen thread to this. Now, if you're having trouble getting off that paper backing like I am, I keep my fingernails pretty short, go ahead and press your nail in the center of that dimensional. That's going to help lift the outside edges, making it easier for you to get that paper off. So I'm going to squeeze one more in there. And I've cut another piece. I'm going to place one of my raw ends here on the back, and then I'm just going to make some loops. I'm going to make some bigger and some smaller. By tacking it onto the dimensional, that's going to allow it to be secured in place. And I'm going to come over to the other side, kind of working on an angle, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And you can add as many of these as you'd like. I'm going to take my paper snips one more time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my leaf and I'm going to attach it to the back, so I have just a little bit of it peeking out. And there's enough sticky now exposed on the back of this for me to actually come right over that knot and then center that image and then just press that in place. And then we're going to adhere this to the base of the card. And you can use adhesive, but I chose to use dimensionals. I'm going to go ahead and place one in each of the four corners. I'm cognizant of the fact that when I'm mailing it, it's going to go through the postage meter at the post office, and I don't want the center to sag. So I've been using a lot more dimensionals lately just to ensure that it comes out intact on the other side. And then this is just going to get mounted right here in the center of that card base, leaving myself a nice little border all the way around. So there we go. We have our card. Isn't that simple? Also great for a nice masculine card for a change. Here's the one we created today, the one I created before you joined me. If you're here from YouTube, like and share this video, and don't forget to head over to my blog for the pictures and cutting dimensions. While you're there, you'll find that I offer exclusive and generous online ordering rewards. And make sure you subscribe to my newsletter. I provide a tutorial in that newsletter that I don't offer on any other platform. Thanks so much for joining me, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.